The massive space station Nexus Prime floated silently in the void between star systems, its gleaming metal hull reflecting the light of distant suns. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at its many ports, bringing diplomats and traders from across the galaxy. Today, it would host one of the most important meetings in recent history. Kim J stepped off the human transport ship, his simple black suit making him look like any other businessman. He carried a single briefcase and walked with calm, measured steps. To anyone watching, he appeared unremarkable, just another minor diplomat from a backwater planet. The aliens bustling around the docking bay paid him little attention. Ambassador J called a young woman hurrying to catch up with him. Lee Hanna had served as his aide for 3 years, but she still marveled at how her boss could remain so composed in any situation. The council representatives are already waiting in conference room 7. Of course they are, Jay replied with a slight smile. They want to show us that our time means nothing to them. Behind them, parked men followed at a respectful distance. The security attaché looked like a typical bodyguard, tall, broad-shouldered, and alert. His eyes constantly scanned the crowds, but he moved with the easy grace of someone comfortable in his own skin. Most people assumed he was there just for show. The trio made their way through the station's main corridor, passing beneath soaring ceilings decorated with art from 100 different worlds. Alien creatures of every shape and size filled the walkways. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others slithered or floated. A few were so strange that Jay couldn't even guess how they moved. First time seeing so many species in one place? Hannah asked, noticing his interest. Not exactly, Jay said quietly. His eyes lingered on a group of tall, blue-skinned Rylan warriors. Their proud bearing and ceremonial weapons marked them as nobility. But it's been a while. They reached the conference level just as a delegation of Krek's officers marched past. The militaristic aliens wore dark armor, covered in medals and rank insignia. Their leader, a scarred veteran with cybernetic implants, glanced at the humans with obvious disdain. He said something in his own language that made his companions laugh. What did he say? Hannah whispered, "Nothing important." Jay replied, though his expression remained neutral. He had understood every word. The Krek's officer called them soft meat, and wondered why anyone bothered talking to such weak creatures. Conference Room 7 was the largest meeting space on the station. A circular table dominated the center, surrounded by chairs designed to accommodate different alien body types. Representatives from the 3 major powers of the Galactic Council were already seated and waiting. The Rylan delegation sat straight and formal, their blue skin gleaming under the artificial lights. Their ambassador, a female named Caravel, wore robes that probably cost more than most humans made in a year. She looked at the arriving humans like a noble studying insects. Across from them, the Krek's military officers sat in perfect formation. Their leader, General Vox Thane, drummed his clawed fingers on the table. His cybernetic eye whirred softly as it focused on Jay. Everything about his posture screamed barely controlled aggression. The third group looked the most alien of all. The Vorth Confederation representatives appeared as shifting clouds of energy contained within translucent robes. Ancient beyond measure, they communicated through harmonic vibrations that translation devices could barely interpret. So, Ambassador Caravel spoke first, her voice dripping with condescension. Earth finally sends someone to discuss the new trade agreements. We were beginning to think your species had forgotten about us. Not at all, Jay replied politely, taking his seat. We're grateful for this opportunity to strengthen our relationship with the Council. General Thane snorted. Relationship? You mean your desperate need for our technology and protection. Face it, human. Your kind barely crawled out of your home system 5 years ago. You have nothing we want. Hannah's jaw tightened, but Jay remained calm. He opened his briefcase and removed a data pad. I think you might be surprised by what we have to offer. Minerals? Agricultural products. Caravel waved dismissively. Hundreds of worlds can provide such basic resources. What makes Earth special? The Vorth representative's energy field flickered, producing sounds that the translator rendered as amused whispers. Even the ancient beings seemed to find humanity's position laughable. We understand your position. Jay said evenly. "You see us as newcomers who should be grateful for whatever scraps you're willing to offer. But perhaps we should discuss the details before making assumptions." For the next hour, the aliens presented their terms. They wanted exclusive mining rights to 3 human colonies, complete access to Earth's biological databases, and the right to establish military bases in human space. In return, they offered limited access to basic galactic technology and protection from hostile forces. Throughout the presentation, Jay listened quietly, occasionally asking clarifying questions. He never raised his voice or showed any emotion. His calm demeanor seemed to frustrate the aliens, especially General Thane, who clearly expected anger or desperation. These terms seemed rather one-sided. Jay finally said when they finished, "One-sided?" Kyra Vell laughed. "Child, you're lucky we're offering anything at all. Most species would pay us just for the privilege of this meeting." Parkman shifted slightly behind his ambassador's chair. To most observers, it looked like a simple adjustment of position, but those with trained eyes might have noticed how his weight balanced, how his hands remained loose and ready. Jay smiled politely and began reviewing proposed contract. None of the aliens suspected that they were negotiating with someone who had seen more battles than all of them combined. 3 days into the negotiations, the talks had reached a standstill. The Galactic Council representatives grew more frustrated with each passing hour. They had expected the humans to accept their terms quickly, but Ambassador Jay continued to ask for changes that the aliens found unreasonable. Impossible. General Thane slammed his clawed fist on the conference table. "You dare ask for equal partnership? Your species has nothing to offer that we cannot take from 1,000 other worlds." Jay remained calm, his hands folded neatly in front of him. "General, I believe fair trade benefits everyone involved. Perhaps we should take a break and reconvene tomorrow." After the meeting ended, the alien delegates gathered in a private chamber. The room's walls blocked all listening devices, allowing them to speak freely. "This is taking too long." Kyra Vell paced back and forth, her blue skin darker with anger. "The human refuses to see reason. He acts as if his pathetic species has some kind of power." General Thane nodded grimly. "Perhaps it's time to remind them of their place in the galaxy. A small demonstration of force might help them understand reality." The Vorth representative's energy field pulsed with agreement. Their harmonic voice translated as ancient wisdom. Young species often require harsh lessons to accept their limitations. That evening, Jay returned to his quarters on level 7 of the station. The diplomatic suite was comfortable but simple, a bedroom, small office, and sitting area. Lee Hanna had retired to her adjacent room, while Parkman took the first security watch from the corridor outside. At exactly midnight, the station's lights dimmed for the night cycle. Most residents had gone to sleep, leaving the corridors quiet and empty. This was when the Krex assault team made their move. 6 elite soldiers in black stealth suits moved through the service tunnels beneath level 7. They had studied the station's layout for hours and knew exactly how to reach the human quarters without being detected. Their plan was simple: rough up the Diplomat, maybe break a few bones, then disappear before station security arrived. It would send a clear message about what happened to species that didn't know their place. Team leader Croft Voss checked his weapon one final time. The shock batons would cause intense pain without leaving permanent damage. Perfect for teaching lessons. His men carried similar non-lethal weapons. They wanted the human alive and able to remember this experience. "Remember," he whispered into his comm unit. "Make it look like random criminals. Nothing that traces back to us. Just give the soft skin something to think about." They cut through the ceiling panel above Jay's quarters with laser tools. The metal fell silently onto the carpeted floor below. One by one, the 6 soldiers dropped into the darkened room. The sitting area appeared empty. Moonlight from the station's artificial sky cast long shadows across the furniture. Croft Voss signaled his men to spread out and search for their target. "Kitchen clear," came the first report through their comm system. "Office clear," reported another soldier. Croft Voss approached the bedroom door. It stood slightly open, revealing only darkness beyond. He raised his shock baton and stepped inside. The room exploded into motion. Something struck Croft Voss in the throat before he could even register movement. His weapon flew from his grasp as he gasped for air. A shadow moved past him with impossible speed, heading for his men in the other room. The first soldier never saw his attacker. One moment he was checking behind a chair. The next he was unconscious on the floor. The second soldier spun around at the sound, but found only empty air where his target should have been. "Contact! Contact!" he shouted into his comm, raising his weapon. A hand appeared from nowhere, grabbing his wrist and twisting. Bones cracked. The soldier's scream cut off abruptly as pressure struck a nerve point in his neck. The remaining 3 Krex warriors tried to form a defensive circle, but their enemy moved like a ghost. He seemed to be everywhere at once, behind them, beside them, above them. Their advanced training meant nothing against someone who fought like the darkness itself had come alive. One soldier managed to activate his shock baton and swing it in a wide arc. The weapon passed through empty space as his target dropped low and swept his legs. He hit the floor hard, his armor cracking against the station's metal deck. Another tried to call for backup, but his comm unit sparked and died as precise fingers found the exact pressure point to disable it. Before he could react, the same fingers found pressure points on his body, and he collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. The last soldier, seeing his entire team defeated in less than 2 minutes, dropped his weapon and raised his hands. "Please," he gasped in broken standard language. "We surrender." Jay stepped into the light for the first time, looking completely calm and unruffled. He wore simple sleep clothes and appeared to be breathing normally, as if he had just finished a light walk rather than a brutal fight. "Park, men," he called softly. His security attaché entered immediately, weapon drawn and ready. He took in the scene of 6 defeated Krex soldiers with professional interest. "Clean up?" Parkman asked. "Call station security." Jay replied, straightening his sleeping shirt. "But make sure these ones stay conscious. They have stories to tell their friends." The surviving soldiers would indeed have stories. Stories about a human who moved like death itself, who fought with skills they had never imagined possible. Stories that would spread through the Krex military ranks like wildfire, changing everything the galaxy thought it knew about Earth's simple Diplomat. News of the failed attack spread through Nexus Prime like electricity through wire. Within hours, every species on the station had heard some version of what happened in the human diplomat's quarters. The stories grew more incredible with each telling, but the basic facts remained the same. 6 elite Krex soldiers had been defeated by a single human in less than 3 minutes. Station Security Chief Valder, a professional Rylan officer, reviewed the security footage for the 10th time. The cameras had captured very little due to the darkness, but what they showed defied explanation. The human moved with a speed and precision that seemed impossible for his species. Run the biometric analysis again. Valder ordered his technician. The results appeared on screen moments later. Heart rate, breathing, stress indicators all showed that the human called Jay had remained completely calm throughout the entire encounter. No adrenaline spike, no elevated pulse, nothing that suggested he had been in mortal danger. "Sir," the technician said hesitantly, "these readings suggest he was never actually threatened, like he knew exactly what would happen." Meanwhile, in the medical bay, the surviving Krex soldiers gave their statements to investigators. Their accounts varied in details, but all described the same impossible events. "He was everywhere at once," whispered Soldier Kexthon, his arm in a medical brace. "I trained for 20 years in combat. I fought in 12 wars. But this human, he moved like a ghost made of lightning." Another survivor, Torves, stared at the ceiling with haunted eyes. "We never even saw him clearly. Just shadows and movement. When I swung my weapon, he wasn't there anymore. Then something hit me from behind, but when I turned around, nothing was there either." The most disturbing account came from Team Leader Croft Voss. His throat was bruised, but he could speak in a harsh whisper. "He could have killed us all in the first 30 seconds. Every strike was precise, controlled. He chose exactly how much damage to cause. We weren't fighting a diplomat. We were fighting something else entirely." These testimonies reached General Thane within hours. The Krex military leader stood in his private quarters, reading the reports with growing unease. His hand picked elite soldiers, veterans of countless battles, defeated by a single human who supposedly worked with documents and trade agreements. Impossible, he muttered, but the evidence was undeniable. He activated a secured communication system and contacted Krek's military intelligence. I need everything you have on the human ambassador, Kim J. Full background analysis. Check their military databases. The response came back faster than expected. Sir, we already ran those checks when the negotiations began. Human databases show him as a career diplomat. No military service record. He has spent his entire adult life in peaceful government work. Run the search again. Thane growled. Deeper this time. Someone who fights like that doesn't learn those skills from reading trade reports. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Song Woo sat in Fleet Command watching the same security footage that was causing such confusion on Nexus Prime. Unlike the aliens, he knew exactly what he was seeing. The movements, the precision, the economy of force. They were as familiar to him as his own face. Iron Wolf, he said quietly to himself. It had been years since anyone had used that code name. Colonel Yoon Soare entered his office carrying a classified file. The aliens are asking questions about Jay. Our intelligence sources report they're trying to dig deeper into his background. How much will they find? Song Woo asked. Nothing, if our security holds. But if they keep looking? She shrugged. The Iron Wolf operation was classified at the highest levels, but determined investigators might piece things together eventually. Song Woo nodded thoughtfully. Kim Jae had been the most decorated Special Forces commander in human history. During the Outer Rim conflicts, battles that the galactic community knew nothing about, he had led missions that seemed impossible. Entire enemy bases eliminated by a single team. Hostages rescued from situations that military analysts called hopeless. Enemy commanders who disappeared without a trace. Their own guards never seeing what happened. The code name Iron Wolf had become legend among human military forces. Some soldiers claimed he could move through enemy territory like a ghost, striking without warning and vanishing before anyone knew he was there. Others said he could kill a dozen trained warriors before they could draw their weapons. All of those stories were true. Why did we send him as a diplomat? Soare asked. Because he asked for the assignment, Song Woo replied. After 15 years of war, he wanted to try peace. We thought it would be safe, just trade negotiations with civilized species. On Nexus Prime, Dr. Choi Bin worked frantically in his small laboratory hidden in the station's research section. As Earth's top intelligence analyst, he had been monitoring alien communications for months. Now those same communication channels buzz with activity as various species try to understand what had happened. They're scared, he reported to Earth through an encrypted channel. The Kreks are questioning everything they thought they knew about human capabilities. The Rylans are demanding more information from their intelligence services. Even the Vor seemed concerned. But the most interesting development came from an unexpected source. Deep in the Galactic Council's military archives, automated systems began pulling old files about a mysterious force that had appeared in several conflicts over the past decade. Reports of human soldiers who seemed to possess abilities far beyond their species' supposed limitations. These files had been dismissed as exaggerations or propaganda. Now, suddenly, they were being re-examined with new interest. The galaxy was beginning to realize that perhaps they had never truly understood the species called humans. And if they were wrong about their diplomats, what else might they have gotten wrong about Earth's true capabilities? The next morning brought chaos to the Galactic Council chambers. Emergency sessions were called as representatives from dozens of worlds demanded answers about the incident. The carefully maintained image of Council authority had been shattered by a single human diplomat who refused to act like the weak creature they expected. Ambassador Kyra Vel Pace in her private quarters, her blue skin flushed dark with anger and embarrassment. The attack on the human had been meant to show strength, but instead it revealed weakness. Worse, it made the Council look foolish in front of the entire galactic community. This cannot stand, she declared to her advisors. If other minor species see that humans can defy us without consequences, our entire power structure will collapse. General Thane felt the same pressure, but from a different angle. His elite soldiers, the pride of the Krek's military, had been humiliated by a single opponent. His reputation as a fearsome military leader was crumbling with each retelling of the story. The human must be removed from the station immediately, he announced at an emergency council meeting. His presence here is a threat to galactic stability. The Vorth representative's energy field pulsed with ancient authority. The young species has shown disrespect that cannot be ignored. They must learn their place through decisive action. By noon, the council had issued their ultimatum. Ambassador J had 24 hours to leave Nexus Prime or face forcible removal. All trade negotiations were suspended indefinitely. Earth was being treated like a rogue nation that had violated diplomatic protocols. J received the message while having lunch with Lee Hanna and Parkman in the station's civilian dining area. He read it calmly, then set the datapad aside and continued eating his meal. "Sir," Hanna said nervously, "they're demanding we leave. What do we do?" "We finish our food," Jay replied simply. No point in wasting a good meal. Parkman smiled slightly at his commander's casual attitude. He had seen this calm confidence before, usually right before impossible missions succeeded in ways that no one could predict. But neither of his companions knew about the other responses already occurring across known space. On Earth, Admiral Song Wu stood before a wall-mounted display showing star charts. Red dots marked the locations of what appeared to be ordinary human traders, explorers, and researchers scattered throughout Galactic Council territory. To most observers, they looked like normal civilians pursuing peaceful activities. Song Wu knew better. Each red represented a highly trained operative who had been positioned months or years ago as part of a vast intelligence network. These weren't peaceful merchants and scientists. They were Iron Wolf's former teammates and other Special Forces veterans who had volunteered for long-term deep cover assignments. "Activate Protocol 7. He ordered Colonel Yoon Sore. "All assets," she asked for confirmation. "All assets. It's time they learn what humanity has been capable of all along." Across the galaxy, ordinary humans began receiving coded messages hidden in routine communications. A trader named Nam Ho, who had spent 2 years selling Earth agricultural products on the Rylan homeworld, quietly accessed a hidden weapons cache in his ship's cargo hold. His buyers had never suspected that their friendly human merchant was actually a demolitions expert who could level city blocks. On the industrial world of Krex Prime, Dr. Young Min had been studying alien manufacturing techniques for 18 months. Her research facility colleagues saw her as a brilliant but harmless scientist. They didn't know she was also one of the most skilled infiltration specialists in human military history, or that she had been mapping critical infrastructure weaknesses the entire time. Similar activations occurred on dozens of worlds. Humans who had seemed like harmless visitors for years suddenly revealed themselves as highly trained operatives who had been studying, learning, and preparing for a day that might never come. That day had arrived. Back on Nexus Prime, the 24-hour deadline approached. Council security forces, backed by Krex military units, prepared to storm the human diplomatic quarters. They came in overwhelming numbers, 50 armed soldiers, 2 assault shuttles, and enough firepower to level half the station if necessary. Jay waited calmly in his sitting room as the forces gathered outside. He had changed into a simple black outfit that looked like diplomatic formal wear, but was actually designed for combat mobility. Lee Hanna and Parkman flanked him, both appearing nervous but ready. "Last chance, human," came General Thane's voice over the communication system. "Surrender now or face the consequences." Jay activated his own comm unit. "General, I appreciate your position, but I'm not finished with my work here. Perhaps we should discuss this more reasonably." "Reasonably?" Thane's laugh was harsh. "You had your chance for reasonable discussion. Now you face the full power of the Galactic Council." At that moment, similar scenes played out across known space. On 17 different worlds, human civilians stepped out of the shadows and revealed their true nature to shocked alien populations. Communication networks that had operated for decades suddenly went dark as key relay stations experienced mysterious technical failures. Military installations found their security systems compromised by maintenance workers who had been trusted employees for years. The galaxy's information systems, which had seemed so secure and sophisticated, proved to be riddled with human intelligence assets who had been watching, learning, and waiting for orders that they hoped would never come. On Nexus Prime, as Council security forces prepared to breach the human quarters, Jay's comm unit chimed with an incoming priority message. He read it quickly, then looked up at his companions with a slight smile. "It seems," he said quietly, "that Earth has decided to join this conversation properly." The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's preference for peace had never meant they were unprepared for war. The Council security forces stood ready outside Jay's quarters when every communication system on Nexus Prime suddenly came alive with priority alerts. Emergency messages flooded in from across galactic Council space, each one more alarming than the last. General Thane's personal communicator buzzed urgently. The message from Krex Prime made his blood run cold. Critical infrastructure compromised. Human operatives revealed throughout our territory. Request immediate guidance. Similar reports reached Ambassador Kyravel from the Rylan homeworld. Manufacturing centers had shut down. Transportation networks were experiencing coordinated failures. And the humans responsible weren't violent criminals. They were the same peaceful traders and researchers who had been welcomed for years. The Vorth representative's energy field flickered with confusion as their ancient communication networks registered impossible data. Humans had somehow mapped and understood technology that had taken their species millennia to develop. In the midst of this chaos, Jay's calm voice came over the station's main communication system. "Council representatives, I believe we should continue our negotiations. I'm waiting in conference room 7 if you'd like to discuss terms." The audacity was breathtaking. With Council fleets mobilizing and security forces surrounding his quarters, the human diplomat was suggesting they simply return to the meeting table. "Impossible," General Thane snarled. "We have you surrounded. You have no leverage here." "General," Jay replied politely, "I think you should check your intelligence reports before making that assessment." As if on cue, more urgent messages arrived. A Krex military installation had gone completely dark after its human maintenance staff revealed their true expertise. A Rylan research facility found its most classified projects copied and transmitted off-world before anyone realized what was happening. Across 17 worlds, humans who had seemed harmless were demonstrating capabilities that no one had suspected. But the most shocking revelation came from deep space. Long-range sensors detected something that should have been impossible. A human fleet approaching the neutral zone, not the small patrol ships that Earth supposedly possessed, but massive vessels that dwarfed anything in the Council's military records. Admiral Song Wu's flagship, the Soul, led a formation of ships that incorporated technology the aliens had never seen, stealth systems that made them invisible until they chose to reveal themselves, weapons that could strike targets across solar systems, defense shields that seemed to bend space itself. "This is Admiral Song Wu of the Earth Defense Fleet," came a transmission that reached every ship and station in the sector. "We understand there has been some confusion about humanity's capabilities. Perhaps it's time for honest discussion." On Nexus Prime, the Council representatives gathered in emergency session. The reports flooding in painted a picture that shattered everything they thought they knew about the human species. "How is this possible?" Kyravel demanded. "Our intelligence services monitored Earth for years. They showed us a minor species with basic technology and no military power." Dr. Choi Bin's voice came through a secure communication channel from his hidden laboratory. "Honored delegates, perhaps the problem was that you only saw what we wanted you to see." The revelation hit like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't been hiding their weakness. They had been concealing their strength. For years, they had carefully maintained the appearance of being a primitive species, while secretly building capabilities that rivaled or exceeded the great galactic powers. General Thane stared at the tactical displays, showing human ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. "Why?" he asked. "Why hide this power? Why pretend to be weak?" Jay's voice answered from Conference Room 7, where he waited patiently at the same table where negotiations had begun days ago. "Because, General, we prefer peace. Building weapons is easy. Choosing not to use them requires strength." The Council representatives slowly made their way to the conference room. The The security forces remained outside, but their weapons seemed pointless now. The humans had demonstrated that if they wanted violence, they could have achieved it years ago without anyone realizing what was happening. Jay sat exactly as he had during their first meeting, calm, professional, with his simple briefcase beside him. Lee, Hannah, and Park Min flanked him, no longer bothering to hide their alertness and competence. "Shall we continue our trade discussions?" Jay asked as the alien delegates took their seats. "Trade discussions?" Kyravel's voice cracked slightly. "You've just revealed that your species has been conducting intelligence operations across our entire territory." "Defensive intelligence," Jay corrected gently. "We needed to understand the galaxy we were entering. Surely you can appreciate the wisdom of being prepared." The Vorth representative's energy field pulsed with what might have been respect. "The young species is not as young as they appeared. But why reveal this now? Why abandon the deception?" Jay leaned forward slightly. "Because some of your people decided that violence was an acceptable way to conduct diplomacy. We needed to clarify the actual balance of power before things escalated further." General Thane's claws scraped against the table. "You could have destroyed us at any time. Our fleets, our worlds, everything we built." "Yes," Jay agreed simply. "But destroying things is not our goal. Building relationships, creating trade partnerships, sharing knowledge, these things benefit everyone. We came here seeking cooperation, not conquest." He opened his briefcase and removed the same data pad he had shown them days earlier. "So, shall we discuss those trade agreements? I believe you'll find our revised terms much more reasonable now that we're negotiating as equals." The galaxy had learned a crucial lesson about humanity that day. The most dangerous warriors were often those who chose the path of peace, and the wisest diplomats were sometimes those who could end wars before they started by making the cost of conflict too high to contemplate. The new trade agreement signed that day established humanity not as a junior partner begging for scraps, but as an equal member of galactic civilization whose strength was measured not by their willingness to fight, but by their preference for finding better solutions.